Hello everyone, welcome to the online Community Work Studies Student Supervisor Orientation. My name is Danielle Masso and I'm the CWS Program Coordinator. I'm in my second year of graduate school here at the university studying healthcare administration, and this is my second year running the CWS program. A couple of other important people that you'd normally meet at the orientation would be Sally Nastas and Steve Brown. Sally is the Director of Academic Service Learning, and Steve is the Assistant Director of Financial Aid. While both Sally and Steve are involved with the CWS program, I manage the day-to-day operations and will be your contact if you have any questions or concerns down the road. So a little bit about how this presentation is split up. First, I'll go over exactly what Community Work Study is. Then I'll talk about what is expected from both the students and supervisors involved in the program. And then we'll finish with going over the required documents needed to participate. So what exactly is Community Work Study? CWS is a program that was developed through a partnership between the Academic Service Learning Department and Financial Aid. Basically, it allows students who receive federal work study funds to work at community organizations as opposed to working on campus. Typically, we try to place students at organizations that match their career interests. This is a great benefit to both the student and the organization because the student is gaining real-world experience as well as earning a paycheck, and the organization is benefiting from an extra set of hands at no cost to them. There are a number of other community-based programs through the university, and major differences can be seen on this slide. To quickly go over them, there's community service, which is typically just a day-long event and is unpaid. The President's Fellowship is over the course of a summer where students work full-time and are paid with both federal dollars and grant money. Academic service learning courses are semester-long courses that incorporate service in the community as part of the curriculum. They are also unpaid. Community work study is typically over the course of the academic year, and it's like a part-time job for our students. And an internship ranges in length, but is typically around 150 hours and can either be paid or unpaid. However, if internships are paid, it is by the hiring company, not the university. If you would like any additional information about any of these opportunities, feel free to contact the appropriate person listed at the bottom of this slide. So now let's get into what is expected. On the first day that the student arrives at the organization, the supervisor should give them a tour of the building and introduce them to other employees, especially employees that the student may be working with. Also show them where they will be working, along with other important locations such as the restroom and break room if applicable. This is also a good time to go over the required forms, which I'll talk about a little later. After the tour, both of you should sit down together to go over your schedules. Students may have breaks and exams that might affect their work schedule, and organizations may have big events or meetings that may also affect when the student can and should be working. Go over what is expected and what needs to be done, and make a schedule that works for both of you. It may be helpful to go by semester and make a projected work plan for the fall as well as the spring, as class schedules for students will change. Next, discuss with each other the best ways to get in contact with the other person, whether it is email, phone, text, etc. Determine what method is best for both in work and out of work. For example, if your student needs to tell you that they are sick and cannot make it into work, how should they do so, and vice versa. I also recommend setting a time, maybe once a week depending on the work schedule you determine, to meet with each other to check in, maybe to go over the work progress, assign new tasks, or just to check in on the students' overall well-being, how they're feeling, how their classes are going, etc. As far as workplace etiquette goes, we like to tell students to always check with their organization's policy first, as it may be different everywhere. But as a general rule of thumb, be on time, dress appropriately, stay off of your phone unless it's an emergency, don't surf the internet, no eating, no swearing or profanity, and absolutely no drugs or alcohol. This is grounds for immediate removal from the program. So just a little more on dress and appearance. Again, find out the dress code from the organization. We are aware that you're student workers, so we do not expect you to go out and buy a suit. However, dress appropriately. No ripped or revealing clothing, no gym clothes or pajamas. Also, dress accordingly for the job that is being performed. For example, if your job includes playing outside with children, You'll probably be dressed differently than if you were working in a courthouse or mayor's office. Lastly, make sure you practice good hygiene. Make sure you wear clean clothes and shower before work. I know most of you are probably laughing at your computer right now, but trust me, there are reasons why we reiterate these things. So moving on. Because these are community organizations, students are required to travel off campus. We know this is a little more inconvenient, which is why CWS students are paid more than on-campus workers. For students that don't have a car on campus, some sites are close enough to get to by walking or riding a bike, while another option is the bus. UNH students can ride the city bus for free, which is what a lot of our students choose to do. One tip for travel, though, is to definitely plan ahead. We do live in the Northeast, and with colder weather approaching, we are prone to rain, snow, sleet, and any other form of precipitation and bad weather you can imagine. So students, make sure to plan ahead with whatever method of transportation you're using. Leave enough time for traffic or bad weather, and if you feel unsafe traveling, notify your supervisor. Also, discuss with your supervisors what to do if the university or organization is closed. If the organization is closed, will they call you to let you know, or are you going to call first to check? Just kind of put a protocol in place, as I'm sure weather will affect you working at least once throughout the year. So moving on, these next couple of slides are important to go over, but I know talking about conflict is never fun. So basically, if there is an issue, don't let it go on for too long. Express any concerns you have with the appropriate person, and if you don't feel comfortable, you can always talk to me about it first, and I can try and help mediate any situation you may have. All I ask is that if there is an issue regarding anything at all, please just let me know about it. These are just a list of things that are potential grounds for removal from the program for both students and supervisors. I'll let you read these at your leisure, but supervisors, just make sure that you're promoting a positive work environment, and students, make sure that you're coming to work with a positive attitude and that both of you are just following the rules and guidelines provided to you in the participation agreement form and CWS handbook. So now we get to learn about all of the fun-filled paperwork that needs to be done in order to work in the CWS program. There are forms for both the Financial Aid Office and the Academic Service Learning Office that need to be filled out. The financial aid paperwork needs to be filled out and handed in before students can start working. Once the student brings the completed forms to financial aid, they get what's called a work authorization form, or a pink slip. This slip is then given to the supervisor and the student can begin working. For the Academic Service Learning Office, there are 3 forms that need to be filled out: the Participation Agreement Form, Program Guidelines Form, and Transportation Waiver. The Participation Agreement and Program Guidelines forms are to be filled out by both the student and supervisor, but the Transportation Waiver only needs to be filled out by the student. A list of all of these required forms can be seen right on this slide. The students are responsible for obtaining these forms and getting them back to their respective offices. The financial aid forms can be picked up in financial aid, and the CWS forms can be picked up when the student either attends orientation or meets with me individually. Supervisors who could not attend orientation will be mailed the same packet of information containing these forms for their own knowledge. Now we get to the fun stuff: how students get paid. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with the system, but for those of you who are not, the University of New Haven has a timesheet system where all timesheets are submitted electronically through a system called Banner. How this works is the student logs into their student account online, selects the current week, inputs their hours, and clicks the Submit button. Once submitted, the timesheets are pushed through to the Service Learning Department, where we can then log in and approve their hours. However, I have no way of knowing whether or not the student actually worked the hours he or she submits. This is where the off-campus supervisors come in. After the students submit their hours electronically, we require them to print out the page and get their off-campus supervisor to sign off on it. The student is then responsible for getting the signed copy of their timesheet to me on Mondays of the following week by 3 p.m. Once I receive this signed copy, I can then go into our account, make sure both copies of the hours match, and then I can approve the hours. This slide is a visual of what I should be receiving from the students on Mondays. So a couple of key points with the timesheets. Students can work no more than 20 hours a week by law when the university is in session, and can work no more than 8 hours a day. If you work more than 7.5 hours, you must take and document in your timesheet a 30-minute unpaid break. This is illustrated on the current slide. Also remember that the week ending date is always on Sunday, so weeks are counted Monday through Sunday. So in a nutshell, students' timesheets must be submitted online to Banner by 10 a.m. on Monday mornings following the week worked, and this is university policy. The signed timesheet copies must be submitted to me no later than 3 p.m. on that same Monday. I will not and cannot approve a student's online timesheet until I have the signed copy. So that concludes my online version of the CWS Orientation. I hope it provided you with some useful information and answered any questions you may have had. If you have any additional questions or concerns, feel free to contact me, or if it's a question relating directly to financial aid or payroll, I have provided you with their information on this slide. Thank you all for listening, and I'm looking forward to another great year.